The Elmhurst Historical Museum, located in downtown Elmhurst, is proud to present award-winning exhibits for visitors of all ages. Our Adult Tea Time Talk series, family programs, and special events make learning about history interesting and fun. Admission is free, and on-site parking is available. Visit the Elmhurst Historical Museum soon. Call us today, or go to our website for the latest program details.
This is Elmhurst Time Travelers. In association with Elmhurst Our Kind of Town and the Elmhurst Heritage Foundation, I'm Ken Bartels, your host. And today I have three wonderful guests to talk about women in business, women in leadership, and leadership of the Elmhurst Chamber. I have Kathy Bukowski of CB Health Insurance, who headed the Chamber in 2003. Jennifer Speaker of SMB Advantage Group, who is the current chair of the Elmhurst Chamber, and Virginia Ginny Harmon, who was with Unique Travel, is with Unique Travel, and was unique in her own right because in 1982 she was the very first female chairman of the Elmhurst Chamber. And I want to start out with a question for all three of you, and that is, how did you individually get involved, your initial involvement with the Elmhurst Chamber of Commerce and Industry? And Kathy, why don't we start with you?
Sure. I joined the Elmhurst Chamber after I moved to this town, which is after I got married. And I got married in 1992, in October. And we had a party in November, a month later. We had the holidays, and I think it was January. I walked in the Elmhurst Chamber of Commerce. Tachi Taronis was the executive director. I got an application, and I joined. And the reason was I figured, you know what, this is my hometown now, and I want to frequent the businesses. I want to get to know the people here, so I might as well join the chamber. I wanted to grow my business as well, but I wanted to become established in this town. So I officially joined February of 1993.
Jennifer?
I joined in a similar aspect that Kathy did, but I had started my own business in 2000 and just knew that the best way to get your business started was to go to the local Chamber of Commerce and get involved in a group. So I started, I believe it was June of 2000, right after I launched my first business, CompuCoach, and started working with the chamber then.
And Jenny?
Well, I started our business, the Unique Travel, in 1970, and I had some wonderful friends that were already chamber members, and they were encouraging me that if I expected to go in business, the best thing to do would be a chamber member. And I've never regretted it. It was a wonderful opportunity for me to get acquainted with the whole business atmosphere, because I had always been working with civic affairs and that kind of thing. So it was a wonderful opportunity to get started in the business.
So you were all both encouraged, but also acted on your own, not necessarily recruited per se.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I actually had a call from Phil Sukup
Okay.
right after we opened our doors. He loved our agency, or the artwork that I put on the walls, and so he was a big encouragement.
Now, after you joined, all three of you, after you joined, did you sort of have in the back of your minds, gee, at some point in time, as I get more involved, as I'm better known, as I'm more established, I'd really like to put my mark on this organization in the form of some kind of leadership. Jenny, did you know about that? Did you feel that way right away?
I didn't right away because it was kind of a strange beginning for me, being the first woman on the board. And I did very well to just enter the room and sit down and bide my time. But as things progressed, I became a little bit more, as I've been told, aggressive. And so I really enjoyed what I was doing with the chamber. It was wonderful. Still is.
Jennifer?
When I learned more about what the chamber was doing and not only what I could get out of it as a business, but what I could contribute as a business owner, that's when I started to get involved with more of the committees and going down the path of the board of directors.
I actually encouraged Jennifer to run, and I said, I'll nominate you for the board because I think she'd be a very strong leader. And at first, I knew no one. So I walked into, I had my ribbon cutting with the ambassadors and went to my first breakfast. And I immediately saw a familiar face with an ambassador, and they introduced me, and they were very warm and welcoming. But as I got to know people, I looked to leaders within and women leaders, and I thought, yeah, I would like to do that. I would like to have a role.
Jenny, you already alluded to it, but why, in your mind, did it take 64 years to have a woman leader of the Elmhurst Chamber?
I think Elmhurst was in sort of a stagnant area in that respect. In most of the presidents, I will say, were mostly figureheads. And so I think they just simply plucked someone out and made them president. That's the way I felt about the chamber at first. But as it's progressed, I think that they finally, in fact, I was on the nominating committee whenever they turned the tables on me and said, well, we want you to be the president eventually. So that's the way it got started. So I don't know what brought it on, but I think it was time.
Was the chamber strong during
Yes.
that period?
We had a wonderful chairman, or I don't know what he was called in those days, John Hale, and he was very, very good. And I enjoyed working under him. And then along came a couple of others, and John Jordan, and then John Quigley, of course,
Right.
and Tachi.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's just so interesting, and I have the names in this. In 1982, you're the first. We've obviously established that. And then it was Nancy Phillip in 1988, Gloria Duarte 11 years later. Even that strikes me as a pretty long gap. And then Kathy in 2003, Dare Messina in 2007, Deborah Klosterman in 2008, and then now Jennifer in 12. So in the last 30 years, there's been 7. Now, that's better, but that still doesn't strike me as a huge batting average. Mm-hmm. It's not even close to half. And I'm just wondering, Jennifer.
Well, whenever
I'm sorry,
in before Nancy was, I was chairman of the nominating committee, so I kind of felt like it was time to have another lady.
Yeah, at that point was 6 years.
And it was obvious she made a very good president too.
Yeah. Now, Jennifer, the two of you really, they'll come up in kind of a different era. Particularly, Jennifer, you're the third in 5 years. So, and as I understand the current configuration, there are some officers waiting in the wings that will continue the tradition. But did you even, when you got involved and got on the board, was being chairman in your mind?
No. When I first started being on the board of directors, my first instinct was how much can I help the chamber by being involved in part of the voting body. And since then, and getting more involved and seeing that, well, I can do that. I can work the marketing committee. I can head the membership committee. I can be one of the first vice chairs. That's what interests me to get to chairman of the board. And it could be just now that some women who are running their own businesses may think that it's too much of a commitment and they shy away from it. But we do have 2 women that are on the executive committee now that would be more than capable also.
And I think you are seeing more and more women-owned businesses. You know, I'm an
Absolutely.
ambassador, and one of the things we do is we do ribbon cuttings. We go out to the businesses and welcome them after they join the chamber. And I'm just thrilled to see all these women-owned businesses, retail stores in downtown Elmhurst, you know, young women that are coming into business. And when you go to a chamber meeting, you see it's not heavily populated with men. It's a good mix of people. So we have an opportunity to continue to have women serve in leadership roles because more and more women are in business.
Now, in 2003, what was the chamber membership numbers like?
Ooh, that's a good question. It was approaching 600. We had a stellar year for a lot of years. And what you have is, you as you grow, you're always going to lose chamber members because businesses close, they move out of the area, they can't make the commitment. The chamber's done a really good job recently, and John Quigley is to be commended for really building a strong, in bad times, in a bad economy. Early 2000 was not a bad economy, and so we were growing by leaps and bounds. But we also had great relationship with the city and the schools and the hospital and the library. So it was a wonderful time to be a leader.
Now, I think, you know, regarding the current chamber coming out of what's been called the Great Recession, really holding on to membership, third largest chamber in DuPage County. You know, Jennifer, as you took the reins several months ago now, what did you see in terms of the organization that you were now taking over?
Well, I'm seeing that a lot more of the members are working together, and that's where the strength of the chamber is coming together. So with the programs that we are offering, with the networking abilities, with the ability to grow your own business as being part of the chamber, that's what's attracting and keeping us strong. And the board is being smart about spending properly. So we're doing what everyone in their homes have done and in their businesses is cut their expenses and made sure that what we're doing is for the best of the community and the members.
They've added a lot in the technology field, which is Jennifer's background. So that's huge. People are, looking at social media and they're looking at opportunities to network, and the chamber's been providing that and enhancing those opportunities. So,
you know, Jenny, you mentioned earlier a certain amount of figurehead in your leadership era or prior to that time. And at the same time, we've also mentioned the current structure, which really is, I don't know how unique it is, but I know it creates an atmosphere of leadership because it's a step progression. At least it is most of the time. Was it formalized during your era?
Well, I stepped up from vice president.
Okay.
We were called president and vice president in those days.
Right.
And I immediately felt like that we had a lot of problems that we were facing. This was the beginning of the downtown betterment and beautification of Elmhurst, and it needed to be done terribly bad. And so, and then we had such a large number of absentee landlords that we were getting no cooperation about stepping in and helping the tenant maintain the building even. And we've been very lucky with our landlords, and we've had nothing but cooperation from them. But for a time, it was very, very touchy and very difficult. So we had a little different problems in that era.
Well, that was just at the point in time prior to the kinds of conversations that if former Mayor Marcucci was here, he would talk about at some point in time shooting a cannon down York Road and not worrying about hitting anyone or anything.
Right.
So that was a very interesting time. certainly the Great Recession, it comes after the resurgence of Elmhurst, but the resurgence is going on, Kathy, while you're heading the chamber board.
Absolutely. I mean, we were growing, and it was nice because we actually, as ambassadors, we used to do ribbon cuttings for new chamber members, once a week, and we were doing them 3 and 4 times a month. So we actually took the ambassadors and said, okay, let's make teams, and it was right before I was the leader or right after. It was right around that time. And so when you started looking at the new chamber member list, you had 10 new members a month. That's 120 new businesses in a year. That's huge growth.
Now, I want to close the point on the step progression. Do both of you like the officer step progression leading eventually to chairman, or do you think it actually keeps people from, that step progression keep people from getting into leadership roles?
Well, I think it's a very natural thing to observe the president and be a helpmate for that person, because sometimes you need a co-president even. But I think it's a wonderful thing to have a progression. I thought it was very helpful.
I think it's also something similar, like if you were working at a large corporation and they had you working in marketing 1 year and then you moved laterally to work in another group, like membership for us. It gives you a taste of what all the committees are doing and what all of the chamber is doing. So I think that's beneficial. It may be a little intimidating where when you start as treasurer, if you follow this path, it's 4 years.
And I also think then you're aware of the issues, you know what's going on, because people would come that were new members and eagerly want to be on the board and have great ideas, and we're like, been there, done that, tried that, So you have a little of the history of our numbers and where we are in membership and marketing, and what has been tried and what has been successful and what has not been successful. And I think that's important, is to understand what's happening with the chamber rather than somebody coming in cold that really doesn't know what's going on.
Well, and there's been a metamorphosis in business anyway. Not that many years ago, you wouldn't have had a marketing position because marketing was not really part of the lexicon at that point. You did advertising and you did events and you did giveaways, but you didn't do any marketing. So now we actually have, a head of a marketing committee to go along with the what I would say more traditional ways and means, and certainly membership.
Well, I do think that it's very important as stepping up the ladder, as you say, to serve actually on the different committees, and I had done that, ways and means and membership and all. I've forgotten all the titles. But it was very, very beneficial to know what each committee, what was expected of them, and what they were trying to accomplish.
Special events in 1982?
Special events, yes.
What happened in 1982?
Well, we didn't have you, or we didn't have John Quigley.
We didn't have Elmfest yet either.
No, we didn't. But we actually did have some special events. We had a steak fry, and we had, different things to keep the...
And of course, you were leading up to the sesquicentennial in 1986, right. Which is when Sampa Elmhurst sort of came out of that,
right.
Which begat Elmfest. But you were at the height of Elmfest,
yes.
Or right in the thick of it.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I loved Elmfest, and there's some businesses in downtown that didn't like it, but by and large, it was a great event,
It was a showcase.
It was a showcase for the community, and kids loved it. My neighbors on the block, they would send the kids to the JC's Carnival all day long, and they would go to the entertainment center, what we called the beer tent, and listen to the music. It would be live music all weekend, great food, and of course local businesses would, Community Bank always had a table, and other businesses had a table, and you'd walk around, and it was just a good time.
Well, it didn't start out like that. It started out as Sample Elmhurst.
Right.
And we were to open our doors and have people actually come into your business and look around and learn more about what was going on. And then it just evolved into actually more of what it became that you were describing.
Yeah, right.
And special events?
Well, we no longer have them. That's right.
Yeah, we don't do any of those anymore.
No, but I think a lot of the stuff that we're focusing on now is member related and community related. One of the committees that we didn't mention was governmental affairs, and that's a huge tie with the city. Important. And that's great.
Yeah, we had government affairs when I was.
And John's been a great advocate for us, for the chamber, in keeping the doors open, the communication open, and the connection. And I got the sense that this is it was a welcoming town to me. There was very nice, friendly people here, but we all seemed to get along and for the betterment of each other. So you see different, the government, the city center, the town itself, getting along with the chamber and trying to do what's in best interest of everybody. So.
My observation of the chamber for a number of decades now, Elmhurst in specific, is it's always been a very social chamber. It's not to say that it's not focused on business, it's not to say that it's not focused on doing governmental affairs, but it's always been a very social chamber. Was it a social group in 1982?
That's basically what it was. It was a very social group. But I think we started really realizing some of the problems, and Oak Brook had just opened. That really opened a lot of people's eyes to what we should start doing. So that's when they activated the Downtown Betterment Commission. I think Abner Gannett did that. And I was on that committee for 20 years. And Jean Baker started it. She was the first chairman. And then Jan Vanek took over from her. And I served under 4 different mayors in that committee. And it was very, very interesting work.
To take our break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the mayors and the interaction between the leader of the chamber and the leader of the city. This is Elmhurst Time Travelers, and we'll be back in just a moment.
Visit elmhurst.org to explore the new City of Elmhurst website. Find out the latest Elmhurst news, pay utility bills and parking tickets, report concerns, and much more. Elmhurst.org is an ideal way to discover what Elmhurst offers your business, your family, your life.
The Elmhurst Historical Museum, located in downtown Elmhurst, is proud to present award-winning exhibits for visitors of all ages. Our adult Tea Time Talk series, family programs, and special events make learning about history interesting and fun. Admission is free, and on-site parking is available. Visit the Elmhurst Historical Museum soon. Call us today, or go to our website for the latest program details.
This is Elmhurst Time Travelers, and we're talking about women in leadership, specifically chamber and business leadership in Elmhurst. And when we went on break, we had just talked briefly about the topic of leadership and the leadership of the city. So how is it? How was it? How is it dealing with the leader of the elected government, the mayor? Jenny, you mentioned you worked with 4 mayors.
I had no problem with any of them. They all had their special projects that they were projecting and trying to get started. You can't really do a whole lot in 1 year, but you can certainly start some ideas moving along. So yes, all of them were very, very helpful. And some of them were in there a long time. Charles Weigel,
well, some of them had been on the chamber board at some point in their careers as well.
Right. They were all very, very helpful in wanting the chamber to progress, and I think it certainly has. So,
comments?
Yeah.
Well, Mayor Marcucci was mayor when I was in, and now we have Pete, and both of them understand the business side, and because they're business owners. And so they've always been very supportive of the business community. So I think we had a great working relationship with the mayors. That's my personal point of view.
Right, and even now with John's involvement with governmental affairs, we're doing a lot more as being a partner with the city to help with the retail, like the Got It campaign, to help with getting people involved in the downtown. So I see us more as a partner and working together and using each other's strengths as opposed to being the separate entity that's only about businesses.
Now, Jenny, Unique Travel is downtown in the city center, what is now the city center. The two of you have businesses up in one of the North Business Park.
Yep.
Right.
How do the three of you react to the commentary that is often made that the chamber pretty much exists for the downtown businesses and everybody else is along for the ride?
Well, when I was president, that was one of the complaints about the chamber. So we went so far as to change the name when I was president to the Elmhurst Chamber of Commerce and Industry. And I redesigned the logo to incorporate that. And I think that helped a lot. And we really it depended a lot on the committee that would come from the industrial, whoever was head of that. And I know we did a lot to help about the turn lights and stop lights and water, flooding and, everything. Tried to help the industrial area till I really think it's become a very big part of the chamber.
And, what I've seen is not only businesses throughout Elmhurst, but I see businesses in the surrounding suburbs joining. Villa Park and people in Lombard and people in Oak Brook. When I joined, my office was in Oak Brook, but I'm not going to join, it was in Carroll Stream at the time. And, but I live in this town, and this is where I do business with, and these are the businesses I frequent. So I wasn't going to join out there because that's not where my home is. So now I'm happy to say my office is in Elmhurst, but we have a very strong chamber, and you mentioned earlier we're the third largest in all of DuPage, and people want to promote, so they want to have join an organization that is active, that is friendly, and that does network and help their business. And I think that's what the Elmhurst Chamber does. So.
Right, and I think lately we've opened up the doors to different types of growing your business. So not only do you have to go to a networking event and meet people in the morning or in the evening or at a luncheon, there's ways to get your business information out. You can do the member message. You can sponsor something. So I think it's changed a little bit where I'm not seeing so much focus on the downtown. It's if you're involved, that's how people are going to know you.
Well, that's principally one of the reasons why when I was in my era, if you want to call it that, we started business after hours and the breakfast meeting, and primarily for networking. And I think a lot of that has transpired and been wonderful.
Thank you for starting that.
Yes.
It's very successful and still happening.
And also the ambassadors, I helped start that. I think Don Stoper and I and Nancy Phillip all started that, and I even picked out the coats that we wore at Leonard's.
I got my coat from Nancy.
At Leonard's.
She ordered it for me.
I gave
so
them.
Did I.
Yeah.
I gave 2 of them away because I outgrew them.
Yeah.
Anyway, we used to have a lot of fun on those the ambassadors.
Yeah.
So.
And I think today you also see a lot of businesses people that are working out of their homes. People
Right.
are getting downsized and laid off, and they're becoming consultants. They're starting their own business. And you know what? If they don't have money to go rent space where we're at in an office building, they're doing it out of their home because they can. They can do it online. They can do it electronically. And those are successful businesses too, So we welcome all of them.
Well, in Elmhurst as a community, we have a vibrant downtown again. The city enjoyed that for decades and decades, and then lost it and found a way to bring it back, which some communities have not been able to do. But then you talk about the other thing. You talk about the 3 business parks you talk about Spring Road, you talk about York and Villette, you talk about Butterfield, you talk about Grand Avenue, Lake Street. For a relatively small community of 44,000 some odd folks, that's a lot of different business areas. And so when you lead the chamber, you lead all of those business areas, and they have different kinds of needs and problems. How do you sort through that? How do you sort through that? You're sorting through it now.
Well, it depends on, first of all, what's your hot topic? Just like when you're in your business, what's the biggest fire, and what do you need to attend to? And I think we're getting in a new grocery store, or at least that's on the table, on Industrial in York, and we're going to see a lot of changes in that area. So just like in regular businesses, you've got to deal with change. The chamber's going to deal with change. So that's what we've been doing, is just focusing on how can we get everything better, and always aware of that constant that something is going to change.
Well, there again, you have different problems for different areas. Like Spring Road, back in those days, they didn't really have a very viable organization at all. But you have to find someone in that community that will take the responsibility to build it up, because the chamber is an umbrella for the city area. And so each little community needs its own vibrant group of people to push for their area.
And you make a good point, because there has been the associations, York and Villette, and the one on Spring Road, and the chamber has supported them, because they do events, and the chamber goes out and gets insurance to cover those events, because we're able to do so, and provided at a very reasonable cost, or next to nothing, if not free. So there's a lot of unity in that. But you're right, the chamber is so many people, and you have different groups with different needs. So,
well, it's an umbrella for the whole community.
Well, and you think about the morphing that has gone on in business in general. I mean, all three of you represent classifications of business that have either undergone unbelievable change, or change is just the way, Jennifer, your business is daily change.
Correct.
But the insurance industry is in the midst of it. The travel industry has changed. I don't even want to get into what's happened. 200% changed.
We have actually had 3 other different community travel agents close and merge or bring their customers to us, 3. And we've tried to help out as much as we can. So
what a testament to her success, huh?
Well,
absolutely. Yeah.
They wanted somebody to do their customers in a professional way.
Yep.
And we tried.
All three of you have alluded to or directly said a certain amount of glass ceiling in the chamber organization, at least for a time. Perhaps not directly experienced by all three of you, but existing in history nonetheless. What kind of issues are women leaders facing today that, I guess let me rephrase, what kind of issues did women leaders face perhaps a decade or so ago, and what are they facing now?
You want to talk about the travel business?
Travel business,
all right.
Chamber leadership, however that question strikes you.
Let me just say that if I tried to work in my own travel agency, I just would not even be able to service anybody, because I'm not completely illiterate, but I am not literate enough to actually, everything is in the computer now.
Jennifer, get you up to speed in a few minutes.
All the hard copies that we have in that office are now in the computer. Mm-hmm. And so it's a very different atmosphere for our customers. They go on the internet, and we even tell them where to go, where they can find out what they need to know, and then they come back to us, and we do everything for them, hopefully.
Right.
What kind of issues have the two of you faced?
I haven't had any problems. Maybe it's just because I'm too naive to see them or something. I don't know. But I've always been greeted very warmly and welcomed in this community. I really feel, you mentioned you think or you feel like the chamber is very social. And it is. Once you get to become friends with these people, you show up at a networking event, you want to go say hi to all your friends. And that's really what it is. Yeah, when you're having a baby and all that stuff. So, but I think in general, if you want to talk about women and glass ceilings, I think what's difficult, and for so many years, women were always the, one having children, one staying home. And, even if they went to college, even if they worked their way up in corporate America or whatnot, if they left for a while to become mothers, which typically they did, and then try to re-enter the job force, there's an issue there because, you don't have the computer skills any longer. You don't have this. And they're doing entry-level, smart women. And what I think is so cool about seeing women-owned businesses is you have women now who are in charge. They're the boss. They can't fire themselves. So there is no ceiling in their business. It's just they can grow it as big as they want to. So, and they can hire as many employees and have the thing run and take time off to have children. And so, you see some women that are just doing some incredible things, which I think is way cool.
Right, and I've seen a lot of communities put together women-focused groups. So very luncheons that would have
a group like that.
Right, like a women in business luncheon or sometime, because we are social and women are social networkers. So it's, I think, a compliment to say that the chamber is a social environment because that's how we do business. Men do it a little bit different. So the women in business organizations and the ones focusing on women-specific issues, or just even the how do I get daycare, or how do I grow my business or find the best marketing or salesperson, such like that.
I find that business is so similar. Our problems are all very similar. And that's why it's so good to meet with your groupings of your different associations, even outside of chamber.
Right.
For instance, I was for many years head of a consortium of over 150 agencies. Well, we all just got along wonderful, and we would come and sit around a table and we would talk about each other's problems in our own communities, and it was very, very beneficial. And one of your questions that you sent us was if we had ever had any leadership outside of the chamber.
Right.
And
yes.
That is what I was going to tell you about it, because it was very beneficial to have had the leadership training and working with the chamber that helped me with the consortium.
So your chamber leadership experiences and the endeavors and special events and everything that fell into that category assisted your personal businesses.
Right, absolutely.
If not directly, at least in terms of skill set development.
Maybe you didn't know it, but it was helping you.
Yeah, I think it was great because you were put in front of a group of people, and I know that when I was chairman, I tried to show up to everything. I tried to attend all the events. I tried to go to all the ribbon cuttings, which was very difficult. We had a lot of them, and so you're very visible and very approachable, and you meet a lot of people. But I think those skills are transferable. Whether you're representing your business or you're representing another organization. I too am a member of associations in the insurance industry and have served on the board for NAIFA, which used to be NALU, National Association of Life Underwriters, and I'm on a number of other organizations. And yeah, I think the experience that I've had with the chamber has helped.
Right. And even heading those different committees, all of a sudden you have a different aspect to your business that you can focus on, or you may be sitting in a Ways and Means committee and then get a brilliant idea for your business to jot that down, and it happens vice versa. You're meeting with your own salespeople and say, oh, this would work for the chamber, let's try that.
Very good.
Do you have a favorite moment from your year as
You know, you sent me
Chair.
this, and I was trying to think of a favorite. It's
Story,
not going to
moment.
be. It's not going to be from my year as chairman necessarily, but I was thinking of a story, and immediately what came to mind was people that connected and met through the chamber. And I remember at the golf outing, Terry McGill, who worked for Keebler, met his wife, and unfortunately they're no longer married, but John Quigley and his wife met through the chamber. John Quigley is our current president of the chamber. And actually, when they met, they were in other relationships. And then they came back together again. And the funniest thing, 2 years ago, they got married at Elmhurst College, as you know, and they had their wedding reception at the Diplomat West, which is a chamber member. And John was getting up right before dinner to make an announcement, and he says, I'd like to welcome everybody. This is John Quigley of the Elmhurst Chamber, and it sounded like we were at a chamber breakfast. I mean, everybody busted out laughing because that's what he says when he, starts the chamber breakfast, and it felt like that because you looked around the room and there were all these people that were chamber members, that were celebrating these two coming together. So that's one of my favorite stories.
Jenny?
Very good. Very
Very
similar.
You have a favorite memory?
Oh, it really goes back quite a few years, Ken, and I really couldn't think of anything that was outstanding except that I had such a wonderful relationship with the office and working with John, and we had a wonderful lady that was, I think, the clerk of the city. The city clerk was our secretary when John Hale was the executive director. And then we had John Jordan when I was president and Gene Baker. So I don't know, I just had so many good associations with those people, and they were very helpful to me in my business too.
Now, you've got a whole bunch of months to go yet, but anything stand out in your first few?
There was one time we were launching the new website, so I remember bringing everyone in for that, and we had a packed house. That was the first time we had standing room only, and that was a really great moment to see everyone come together for the product in a nonprofit environment,
wonderful.
and that was great. So that was nice. It was a rough night the night before. Everyone up until 2-3 in the morning getting everything finished, but that was a great moment. And the other ones I remember is when we're at the teachers' luncheon and Kathy ends up emceeing half of the time, and she's running around the room. So I remember those.
John and I did that years before when we were, before he was the chairman the president at the chamber, and before I was on the board, and we have fun with that.
Mm-hmm.
You each have 15 seconds to send a message to women business leaders who aren't involved with the chamber right now as to why they ought be. Kathy?
Okay. I think it's very important to join the chamber. I think it helps grow your business, and I joined it to grow my business, but it's also a place that you can find other services to help grow your business. I also made some terrific friends, so it's a place that you can meet people that you know, like, and trust.
Sure.
And if you are a business owner that is not part of a franchise, that doesn't have a lot of support from the top, this is a great place to grow your own skills. So if you have trouble giving presentations, or you have questions about marketing, or just different ideas that you need to personally work on, this is a great place to do that.
Well, I think it's really a great learning opportunity as well as social, which is very important. I think most of the time you're talking about someone that doesn't value the chamber, or
someone who's just not involved.
Just not involved. Well, I just think that it would come and have an experiment and see what goes on. A lot of people think they're going to have to fall into a committee and start working and everything, but the chamber lets you step in and work your way up sort of until you get to the point where you are capable of handling a job. And that's what I would think to tell someone.
Well, we've come to the end of our time, and I told all three of you that it goes by quickly, and
yes,
I think now you realize that it does. But I thank all three of you for being guests and sharing your personal stories and chamber stories as well.
Thank you
very
for having
much.
us.
Well, we've
been my
enjoyed it
pleasure.
very much and learning and
Absolutely. We could probably talk for another 2 more hours,
Yes, we
right?
sure could.
Tell stories. We'll do that after.
We'll leave it then after we turn the cameras off.
Okay.
thank
This
you
has
very much.
been Elmhurst Time Travelers. I'm Ken Bartels. We'll see you again.
The Elmhurst Historical Museum, located in downtown Elmhurst, is proud to present award-winning exhibits for visitors of all ages. Our adult Tea Time Talk series, family programs, and special events make learning about history interesting and fun. Admission is free, and on-site parking is available. Visit the Elmhurst Historical Museum soon. Call us today, or go to our website for the latest program details.
Hi, I'm John Quigley, President and CEO of the Elmhurst Chamber of Commerce and Industry. In these challenging economic times, it's imperative that our residents and businesses band together to not only shop Elmhurst, but buy Elmhurst whenever possible. We have great stores in our city center, Spring Road, Butterfield Road, York and Villette Streets, St. Charles and Route 83, North Avenue and Lake Street, along North York and even Grand Avenue. I ask for your help. Let's keep our tax dollars in Elmhurst.